Good afternoon and welcome to another live at the Waterhole. My name is Taylor McCurdy and I'll be the voice you'll be hearing for the next 2 hours. And I'm very excited because we're starting this wonderful live safari, because I suppose that's what it is, at Tau, which is in Madikwe in South Africa. And we've got all sorts of animals. We've got a spoonbill, which is that big white bird walking in the foreground, and then of course the long line is zebra. Just crossing the barren plains. Now, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, a big welcome to all of you. This is a live and interactive show, which means that you're able to chat to me and everybody else that's watching the show. And there are two main ways that you can do so. You can either use the YouTube chat, and the other way is, of course, if you head over to X, or if you're not sure what X is, it was Twitter. Just remember to hashtag Wild Earth at the end of your questions. Otherwise, we're never going to see them. But other than that, let me know. How's your Sunday going? Have you done anything spectacular this weekend? Or perhaps you just want to dive straight into it. Maybe someone already has a wildlife question. Well, there we go. We've got the first comment. Gillian, you've said, yay, a second day of me. You're probably one of the only people that are saying that, but I'm glad that I can entertain you, Gillian. And then Mercedes, you were here yesterday. You said, greetings, Taylor, Wild Earth crew, and all the chatters. Happy Sunday. A big happy Sunday to you too. It's still nice and warm. It actually looks like a really beautiful day in Madikwe. You can see the blue sky just peeking out between the hills. Still lots of nice lush green vegetation lining them, but the grass is on the bare side, although this area doesn't really get that much grass. Catherine, you said hello, Taylor and Tucker. I don't know where Tucker is. He was here a moment ago, and then I gave him a cow hoof to chew on. A really big one, because I'm always nervous about him choking, just to keep him preoccupied. Otherwise, he stares at me as if to say that he is a horribly abused animal. He never gets taken for walks. He never gets, any of those good things. I thought I'd try and distract him. And of course, Tucker is the most spoiled dog in the world. Please don't report me. He comes everywhere with me. He rolls in the mud 65 million times a day. He lives his best life. Bianca, you said that you watch the baby elephant swimming on YouTube, and you said it's such cuteness, and you're also saying thank you for recommending. It's only a pleasure. Elephants bring joy to many people, but any of these animals can. Of course, the zebra are not doing, dare I say, anything entertaining right now. They're just doing normal zebra things, which include standing around, letting the birds do a bit of grooming and getting off all the parasites. You can see that's why that zebra just shook its head now. There's an oxpecker on it. And then they're walking. They've probably already had a drink of water, and now they're going to go and find some grass to graze on. Hey, Forty, you've said that it's just you and your daughter Freya who are watching today from a lovely sunny Sunday in the UK. Well, that's fantastic to hear. Unfortunately, the western and southern parts of South Africa are experiencing weather that is frequent in the UK. Well, maybe not the flooding part of it, but it's definitely raining, and it's quite cold with a cold front that's come through. And the area that I'm from, so the province of the Eastern Cape, is actually flooding at the moment. And obviously we know how devastating floods are. It's been a common theme with me, because I was speaking about and of course Tanzania and going into Malawi, but the Eastern Cape in South Africa has been in a drought for many, many years. So it's very sad about the floods. I hope that everybody is safe, but I hope that the rain is falling in the catchment areas just to top those dams up to 100% through the rest of the year. It looks like there's a little bit of green grass that's popping up, but not all, I'm afraid. And you can even just see in between the sickle bush and other trees in the background, look how yellow the grass has got. So even though it's yellow, it doesn't mean that it's terrible. It's just not as palatable. But there will still be crude protein and other nutrients in it that will be able to sustain the animals through winter. Of course, why wouldn't you? It's like starting with dessert, I suppose, at a buffet. Or you eat the best stuff first, and then, well, you leave the rest for the end of the year when you don't really have much of a choice. Oh, Darcy Miller, that's a familiar name. I hope you're well. You've said hello to myself and also Tucker. I maybe need to go and fetch Tucker at some point. Oh, okay. So great to see the zebra. I'm sure we'll catch up with him a bit later, but there's a herd of elephants that are making their way down to the water's edge. Let's go all the way to Kwamaratane. So we go in the Pilanesberg National Park in South Africa I have yet to go to, and you can see it's raining. Okay, so all the sort of structures that you can see in the background, this is actually this entire lodge. And the elephants, of course, often like to hang around these areas. All animals move around human habitation. That's so nice to see rain, though. Now, we normally don't see a lot of rain at this time of the year. In, I suppose Pilanesberg is just outside of Johannesburg in Pretoria. But we don't often see rain at this time. But again, it's all just the tail end of the front that I was talking about. I know that all the animals are going to be very happy about it. There'll be no complaints. And then, of course, we've always got young bulls having a tussle. And then, Kevin, you've said that you love the Pilanesberg. Well, that's great. I've only heard really good things about it. I'd love to go and look for brown hyenas and leopards up on the rocks. And then, Lucas, you've said that you love the sound of the rain. Well, then, let's listen to it for a bit. Now we've just swung all the way around, just checking to see if there's no one lurking in these bushes, but it doesn't seem that way. I was hoping the elephants might come down, but they could have also just been up feeding on some of those trees. No, fingers crossed they do a bit of a loop around. Ah, okay. Jordan has just let me know. I think it's Jordan. Jordan, is it you that I'm chatting to? I didn't even ask. What I was going to say, it is Jordan. Sorry, I had a moment where I glitched. Jordan has just said that we can head into Olifants West Game Reserve. But now I'm nervous because look at all these elephants. I think they might be coming to the water. Hang on. Forget about what I just said. Let's stick with them. And we're just waiting for the camera to follow them around, but I imagine that they were, they look like they were heading in that direction. Oh, it sounds like they're at the water. I'm not sure why the camera is not moving. For those of you that are wondering, I'm not actually controlling it. There it goes. It might be because there's a delay. That's quite often the case. No, I think they marched on through. That's a pity. Okay. Well, I was really hoping they were going to stick around, but not today. That's alright. So let's go to Karapan. Let's give that a bash. Jordan was right. That is definitely a much better view of the elephants. And of course, on completely different conditions, a lot warmer. So the elephants are going to spend quite a bit of time in the water today. Well, at least I hope it stays that way. There's another young female. Oh, no, it's a young bull. It's barging on through. And it's warm. It's about 28 degrees Celsius. Quite a warm day for June. We will take it. People in this area, we don't like the cold weather. It's not our favorite. That's why we live up here. I think the elephants appreciate days like today. The heat is not unbearable at all. Hi, Sandy. You've just said how great it is to have me on board. That means so much. I don't get to say it enough, but thank you so much when you say things like that. It makes me very happy. And I know Tucker is thrilled too to be a part of this, even though he has no idea what's going on. And you said that it is quite early in the US. My goodness, yeah, that is very early. Well, there seems to be two sections to this water hole, if you're wondering. It looks like there's a crib, so that concrete structure in the middle. That's more likely than not where the water is being pumped into, and then it will overflow. And this area that we can see, there might also be an additional pump, who knows? Well, I definitely don't know. That then fills up this other section. So it's quite nice to have the two. An option, we know elephants, how pedantic they are. They'll drink any water, of course, but if there is the option to drink the freshest water, that's what they're going to go for. And then, to be able to then splash around in muddy water with urine and feces, I mean, their absolute favorite. That's a nice addition too. And they'll spend a lot more time around this area. It's quite a big cow. Also, it seems to be quite spread out. Gosh, this water hole, I can't remember if it's always been this large, but it's quite big. And also looking up, there's a couple little terrapin heads here and there. Difficult to spot. And then, Tasmina, you've asked, do elephants sharpen their tusks? No, not intentionally. That's not one of the things they go out and do. So those tusks are quite interesting. They are modified teeth, modified incisors. Okay, that was rude and unnecessary. You don't need to be doing that. Is this a young bull? Yeah, he's going to get a hiding in a minute if he doesn't lay off this cow. Sorry, I'll get back to my point now. This is why these bulls end up getting pushed out of the herd. You can see she just moved away. She's not tolerating him, and now he's doing the same thing with the young calf. And he better be careful, because she could turn around and have a proper go at him, and well, he's going to end off second best, I'm afraid. I mean, he had all that water to drink from. That was really unnecessary. They just become so boisterous and bullish that no one wants them around. Anyways, so sorry, Tasmina, going back to your question. Sometimes it looks like elephants will sharpen their tusks, but because they're using them to score the bark off of trees as one of their main uses, they'll also use them to help dig in sand, to maybe get some water. They'll use them to hook up on roots and rip them out of the ground. So there are many different uses, but sometimes what happens is those tusks will end up chipping away. They break quite often, and they normally break at an angle, and then they look like they're quite sharp. But otherwise, nah, they're not wanting to spear anything with those tusks. Of course, they can use them as defense, which is incredible. They've obviously got their sheer size on their hand in terms of a defense, but those tusks come in handy. But the bulls will use them quite often when they are fighting for the rights to mate with a female, or many females. And you can see they're not ready to leave the water hole yet, so they've just gone, you know what, it's fine. You've had a drink of water, you have the crib, we're going to stand here and splash around and cool ourselves off. I hope an even bigger cow comes through and teaches him a lesson. And they do this quite regularly. She even tried to. I'm trying to think, did he try and kick that calf on purpose, or is there something biting him? Maybe there's something biting him with the way that he's swatting his tail, biting him, or maybe he got stung. This is quite interesting interactions. It's always like really nice to just see how everyone is treated and who is not tolerated. There's quite a big cow coming in on the right. Let's see how he's going to feel about her presence. Yolanda, you've said you love how easy elephants are to read. They wear their emotions on their sleeves. You're quite right. For the most part, it's quite easy to sort of understand what they're thinking. However, I do find that a lot of people miss the subtle cues, the movements of the tail, the movements of the trunk in situations, because in fact, those small gestures are more important than the big head shake and that type of thing, because if you can see them first, and that's what people miss, you can potentially I suppose, put a situation at ease, put an elephant at ease if it was feeling a bit on the stressed side, by either moving away or maybe sitting quietly, kind of whatever the case may be. If it's a bull, maybe trying to decide if he's going to size up the car, you'll be able to pick out that, okay, he's looking for a little bit of trouble today. Before, for example, a big elephant bull is standing right at the front of your vehicle, before the big head shake, before the head raise, before all those things. So those are just something to keep an eye out for. So if you ever go on safari, chat to your guide and maybe they can point out some of those subtle cues. Otherwise, I always say have a look at Elephant Voices. It's an amazing website with really good information from Dr. Joyce Poole, who's one of the leading elephant scientists or researchers in the world. And yeah, what an incredible woman. There's also a lot of video footage where she then talks about the behavior that's happening, as well as going through all the different vocalizations and what they mean. And there are also sound examples of those. It's really a great website, especially if you are going into parks and doing self-driving. It's very important that you understand, if not the most important animal's behavior that you need to understand is an elephant's. But you can see he's still trying to hold on to his position, that bull that's drinking from the concrete crib. I imagine the water is coming out in that area, and he's just getting more and more boisterous. But it looks, the breeding herd seem to be closing in now and putting pressure back on him. And if he does get to the point where he really upsets one of the cows, all she has to do is make one sound, and then they're going to turn on him. And it seems like he actually needs someone to do that to him, or else we need an even bigger bull to come and sort this out, because this is bad behavior. This is unnecessary. There you go. See, the little one was kind of pushed out of the way in the process and got a fright, and that's why it's been kind of let out a roar. And you can see there's one cow now. She's backing down, but she didn't want to. And if there was a bigger bull here, he would not tolerate this. He'd push him around and let him know. But to be quite honest, if a bigger elephant bull came through here, I reckon he would just submit automatically. He's just a bit too big for his boots, and he shouldn't be. Hudson, you've asked, will the herd back the cow, or will they band together and chase him off? Yeah, absolutely. I think I kind of just answered that for you now. It also just depends. Something, what do people say? You wake up and you choose violence, not in the literal way that means, but you might just be in a bad mood. That could be just him today. And sometimes the herds, again, depending, they're probably thinking to themselves, is it worth it? Nah, probably not. Maybe we'll just let this one slide. He's having a bad day. I don't know. So sometimes they absolutely will. And then other times they might also just submit peacefully. But you can see she's back again. She wants to drink there. It's her turn. And he's going, no. I'm kind of backing the females. And I'm hoping that they do kind of push him out of the way. He's just being unnecessarily unkind to the other elephants. The younger elephants, again, it's very important for them. They're going to understand that there is a hierarchy, right, amongst animals, and that's not anything strange to us as humans either, right? We reprimand, and we're not reprimand, we discipline younger children, that kind of thing. Always respect your elders. I don't need to go into it too much. And there's a very, very similar structure that goes on with elephants again. They're highly intelligent. They think differently from a lot of the other land mammals. So to think that they aren't able to think in those ways, I think, is quite naive. I just wanted to say thank you for all of the wonderful questions about elephants, which is great. Okay, let's dive into a couple more of them. So Sandy, you said you were just commenting about all the muscles that elephants have in their trunks. There's always conflicting information about that. It's always quite funny. Sometimes you hear people saying 20,000, 40,000, or over 100,000 muscles. I think it might be the debate of small muscles versus large muscles, but either way, they have a lot, which is quite incredible. And you're right, far more than the human body. And then you also asked, how sensitive are elephants' trunk at detecting smells? Well, I'll give you an example, and this is quite interesting to go and read up about. Elephants' trunk sense of smell, or their sense of smell in general, is so phenomenal that quite often they're used in Africa to detect TNT that you find in mines and a variety of other explosives. And where they're using them and is specifically in areas that are recovering wilderness spaces that have suffered from civil war of some kind. Oh, there goes a warthog. And in Angola, it's a great area. There's a lot of mining that's go on, but there are some incredible national parks. But sadly, the civil war didn't end that long ago. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. So what they've been using is elephants. They've been training them, and they've shown that they are more reliable than dogs in smelling TNT specifically. So they were using them. But what they have gone and done now, because I'll just elaborate on this too, is that they've actually moved away from using dogs and elephants to smell TNT in this specific area, and they are using the Gambian giant pouched rat. They are training them. I think it's amazing. You can follow them on Instagram. They're called hero rats. And so if you go and check them out, it's incredible. Little harnesses, and they go and detect and respond when they pick up on the scent of TNT, which I absolutely love. So yeah, so elephants, they've done all sorts of things in terms of smelling. They often choose their favorite fruits if they're hidden away. But I just think it's incredible how they use them to smell TNT. And then, Riley, you said that you think that you've heard this before. You've said, imagine an elephant in an airport sniffing your bag. I would quite like that. I'd probably put my hand up all the time going, and me? Can you check my bags, please? I mean, I think that's great. Can you imagine elephants walking around the airport? So, obviously, as long as they're treated kindly, that would be quite amazing. Not pulling elephants out of the wild, but maybe there's a career for elephants that have come out of abuse situations. That are used to working. Maybe they would like to become airport detection elephants. Of course, I'm just teasing. It's obviously not a great idea, but I like the thought of it. It's quite funny. Catherine, you've commented and you said hero rats are amazing. I completely agree. And there was some more questions. Oh, here we go. Justice, you said, do elephant bulls get protective of their calves? So no, they don't. And the reason why I say that is because the elephant bulls don't stay with the herds, right? When they're younger, of course, they're lingering around, but the females start to not tolerate them as well as they used to. And, well, you can imagine that constant negative behavior, just like, they just get annoyed and they chase them. Eventually, the elephant bull's like, okay, I'm maybe not wanted here anymore. And the behavior that we're witnessing now is exactly what they'll do. And then they have to move off and go and find other bulls who are in a similar situation. And sometimes they follow the older bulls. So those big bulls that are dominant enough to be able to take on any contenders of a similar size, reproductive status, and they'll search for females that are in estrus. The females are also singing a song, which is quite interesting. But this can be from kilometers and kilometers away. So the bulls will go through, they'll mate with the females, and that is the end of it. They might see one another again, perhaps at a waterhole, but that male's not going to remember who his offspring are. Like I said, they have no parental duties at all. And Candace, you said you just Googled the hero rats and you feel like they need some special outfits. I just think it's great that they wear a harness. I think that's truly spectacular. Would have been nice if more than one warthog came walking in. Or to be fair, I was talking so much I could have missed the others. Canine girl, hello, hello, hello. You said happy Sunday to everybody, and that you're happy to come in on the Taylor Rat Detectives conversation. Yeah, they're amazing things. There's just so many incredible stories out there that unfortunately don't get the, dare I say, the TV time, right? The attention that they deserve. I mean, most people have no idea that that's even a thing. I can't wait to see if there is a documentary coming out on hero rats. I'll be one of the first people that watch it. I just think that's phenomenal. And if there isn't, somebody needs to make one. But I can't imagine that something like that is going unnoticed in the wildlife filmmaking realm. I love how the breeding herd of elephants have now slowly moved in. And they're just slowly squeezing that bull out. We'll see how he's going to react now to that. But everybody's able to have a decent drink. Sanjeev Roy, you've said you did not know earlier, but recently you found out that there's a small population of forest elephants in Angola fighting to survive. Well, yeah, it's such a tricky thing, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are some big conservation organizations that are trying their absolute best to assist the local authorities in restoring these wilderness areas. And it just takes time and, unfortunately, a lot of funding. But I'm sure they'll get it right. I know some people who have gone and explored Angola, and they just say it's unbelievable. The biodiversity is just on another level. So yeah, I would love to be able to go up. I don't think it's an area suited yet to go on a safari, maybe unless you're willing to rough it. But there's also not a lot of habituation that's happened with the wildlife, and because of the conflict that's been there, unfortunately, animals are the first ones to be persecuted with, illegal poaching of wildlife or all sorts of things, from the bushmeat trade, of course, to ivory, and well, anything goes really. So I don't think it would be great. I think everything would be quite skittish. But for example, for someone like myself, I don't mind if I go in and I don't see absolutely anything. I just think it's really amazing to explore these areas and then knowing and picking up tracks on signs of the wildlife populations that are left, and trying to understand what is actually here. But the best way to, of course, do that is to set up trail cameras where there's just no humans around, with infrared lights, and then document what is kind of moving around that way. The wind has just picked up now in Hoogspruit, and I'm devastated because I just cleaned the swimming pool. So I know when I go outside, it's going to be filled with leaves again. This is the story of my life. I should have just been a pool cleaner. I love it. Forty, you said that you've actually heard of the hero rats and that you've seen it on TV, but it was a while ago. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that they are getting some time to showcase just the magical things that they do. Who would have thought? And then Penelope, you've said, is that the freshwater inflow that they love? Absolutely. I was just talking about it earlier. So there's like a concrete, we call it a crib. It's like a little man-made waterhole that would have been designed to for cattle, as an example, or livestock to be able to drink from. And they've left it, so there'll more than likely not be a pipe there that's funneling in groundwater. They're all just taking it. It's nice to just see a little gathering like this. There's another water. Well, there's actually a female with her sub-adults from last year, just trotting across the screen. Maybe they'll come round, perhaps to the other side of the waterhole, not in the way of the elephant. this is a nice change of view. The elephants spreading out a bit more. Who doesn't love the sound of the splashing of these grey giants? Now, hey, Forty, you asking what is the funniest thing I've seen happen at a waterhole? Oh my goodness. I'll have to think. I mean, elephants are always quite comical around the water's edge, but I think one of my favorite things is when hyenas get quite excited and they come charging in and have a pool party. You know, just how we see the elephants swimming, hyenas love to swim and cool down in water too. So seeing something like that is special because it's not a common sighting. And I'll never forget, it wasn't quite a waterhole, but when I was working for Wild Earth and we were based in Kenya, there was an area where quite a large clan of hyenas used to hang around, and there was a drainage line that had filled up with water. We call them luggers. And I was watching during the middle of the day, and must have been like 12 o'clock, these hyenas running and then jumping into the air and then plonking down in the water, swimming around, biting each other's ears, and then getting out and doing the same thing over and over. So that was quite spectacular. I had to see, and then of course I've seen hyenas doing that in the water, at various waterholes, even in South Africa. But elephants take the cake. Young hippos too, when they are chasing around other animals around the water's edge, sometimes biting a crocodile's tail, which is hysterical. And the crocodile's charging off into the water. So there's too many things to pick a favorite. You can very easily see now why people get confused about how many different colors do African elephants come in. It's not that there are any color differences, it's just depending on what soil they toss over themselves. This soil will most likely be quite high in phosphorus and iron, which I think creates, and I think there's probably a bit of magnesium as well, that creates this reddish color. That little elephant now just standing next to Mom is going to get a free dust bath. And you can see she's multitasking. So as she's using her trunk to scoop up the sand, that front right foot, which she seems to be favoring at the moment, is constantly working to loosen the soil. So they don't need to cut their nails like we do. Sorry about that, everybody. It seems as though Cat Eye Pan just froze, but that's no worries at all. We are now blessed with another group of elephants, but we are in Madikwe Game Reserve, and this is at Jamala, also one of my favorite waterholes, and again showcasing the rare red African elephants. Of course, I'm just teasing, and I love it. You can just see how inaccurate they are when they toss the soil all over themselves. It obviously sticks better to wherever the water is, but they're definitely missing quite a few patches. But I suppose they're doing a pretty good job. They're covering their sides and the tops of their backs, which is really the areas that are going to be exposed to the sun. And now they don't seem to be doing much drinking. If you look at a lot of the elephants, you can see their trunks are touching the ground. Some of them are resting their legs. It looks like they're having siestas. See those eyes grow quite heavy. And they might do this for 5 minutes, maybe 10 or 15. You never know. And that'll be enough to just recharge the batteries. We all know how refreshed you can feel after a power nap. There's also quite a big herd of elephants too. But just as you said, it's so sweet how close they stand. Absolutely, they'll do this. Elephants are social creatures, so tactile communication by touching one another is very important. So they'll often stand on top of each other. Also, they don't want the little ones to be just standing out in the open on their own. We find that the young ones are always, for the most part, quite close to the adults. You can see something upset them, but it might have been somebody moving around on the deck, because there's a lodge just behind the camera, and everybody that's staying there will be sitting, probably enjoying the sun and watching the elephants. Some of the elephants are starting to move off. Just like the zebras, there's really no food around here at all for them to eat. So they come down, have a quick drink, cover themselves with mud and also sand, and then they'll move off to go and find something to eat. So, Hannah, you said it was amazing that it was raining in the Pilansberg, but not at Jamala. So, if you look on a map, uh, kind of where they are, I know there's not a huge distance between them. It's still pretty big. That can make all the difference. So, Madikwe Game Reserve is basically almost on the border of Botswana. It's right up there. So the climate is going to be quite different to what you would see around where the Pilansberg is. It's a lot hotter up this way. So from Hoedspruit, extending all the way up to Louis Trichardt, then moving along to Groot Mariku, which is kind of the area where Madikwe is. That's just still further north of that though, but that's kind of the last town. So, and it's very hot and very dry at the moment. But we'll see what's happening on Monday, because it looks like there might be some rain forecasted for Monday evening into the early hours of Tuesday morning. It says it's going to be affecting us in Hoedspruit, so maybe it will reach all the way to Madikwe. Well, the zebra were also patiently waiting for their turn. And then Miranda, you've said, will elephants still swim when it's raining? Absolutely. This is something I always found quite funny. My mother used to have a heart attack, old bossy Donna, when my youngest brother and I would want to go swimming while it was raining. Now, to be fair, I can't recall if there was lightning or not. But my dad's remark was, when my mom would be like, no, you're going to get sick, my dad always said, they're going to be wet anyways. So I don't know. There was always, and I kind of like what my dad said. I was like, yeah, we're wet, so why can't we just go swim? Obviously, if it's extremely freezing temperatures, it's not wise. And that might have been the case, of course. I just can't remember. I was little. I only remember a little bit. Tidenbach, you've asked, is there a term for animals like elephants that are active during the day and night? Oh, I'm not actually sure. And you know that most animals tend to be active at both periods. So look at for example all that different antelope species, even rhinos, buffalo. Like, I mean, you can go into it, even giraffe for a lot of the time. They they don't have especially in these big open ecosystems where there are a lot of predators present, they they can't just be complacent and go, oh well, the sun's gone down, we're going to go to sleep now, because the chances of them being predated on at night are a lot higher. So what we do tend to see is a lot of animals sleeping during the heat of the day, resting under the shade of a tree. And sometimes, of course, they'll sleep at night, but it might not be all the individuals that are asleep. There might be a few that are still awake. And elephants, of course, don't need a lot of sleep at all. They can go days without sleeping and just having these little power naps that we just witnessed. I need to just check Tidenbach. There probably is a term. I'm not familiar with it, or maybe I knew it once, but it's gone from my brain. It's somewhere in a filing cabinet. Andrew, the video guy, you said that you swam in a rainstorm and the water was warmer. I can definitely believe that, because just like land, water also holds heat better than the air temperature outside. So when you have a dramatic change, like say it was quite a warm day and then all of a sudden a thunderstorm comes around, that water is going to be very close, not maybe very close, but closer to the temperature that it was on the outside while it was warmer. I noticed that for my swimming pool. Obviously, it's a small body of water. You also have to take that into consideration. How deep is it? That's going to make a difference too. That's going to take a lot longer to warm up, and you'll notice the top level of the water will be warmer versus the bottom. Sorry, this is, I suppose, self-explanatory. But in case you didn't know, maybe there's some kids watching. And then when that temperature in the air just dramatically changes, the water temperature, it takes a bit of time for it to change. So I can only imagine that with much water. And I think, much to all parents' dismay, that would encourage the kids to stay in longer, because they'll go, oh, I'm freezing when I get out the water. some of the elephants are just not willing to leave. Let's see, little one, are you lost, or are you just going to go play in the water by yourself? It looks like maybe it's been left behind. Oh, it probably thought, I'm going to follow my cousins out, no problem. And then went, oh no, hang on, where's mom? Nope. Is that who you're looking for? No, trunk is still up in the air. This happens quite often to little elephants. But of course, even if it had strayed away from its mom, it's not a problem. The other elephants will definitely look after it until it finds itself. It will just join up and follow the rest of them. That's very funny to see. Ilana, you said that you love the angle of this camera. So do I. So a little while ago, the camera was much lower down. It gave obviously a great view. But I enjoy it being higher up because you can just see so much more. And it's just so fascinating looking at the big pathways that are made through the bush by the animals to the water. It's just a different view from a lot of the other cameras that we have. Also, how often do you get to see the top of an elephant's back? Not very often. Sierra Delta, you said, does the water appear greener because of the algae? Yes, absolutely. And this water is quite stagnant with there not being any rain. And they do pump water into this water hole, but it's not coming in at a particularly fast rate. And with there not being much other water around, the animals tend to drink it quite often. So that algae just concentrates. And it does fill an area up like this quite quickly. And the thing we have to watch going into an extremely dry period, which we haven't had for the last few years now, is with the cyanobacteria, which is often referred to as blue-green algae. It's not actually an algae. It's a bacteria, and it kills animals every single year, even elephants. So that's something it happens naturally, even if it was just a big wallow that filled up with the rain. As it starts to dry out again, you start to see those algal blooms, and they can be potentially dangerous. So every year there are animals that do suffer and end up losing their lives to blue-green algae poisoning. I think one of the more famous examples happened not too long ago, and it was in Botswana. I forget how many elephants ended up dying, but they died in quite closely to one another, and they thought it was poisoning and all sorts of things until they tested the water sample from the area that they drank from, and they did blood tests, a necropsy on the elephants, and they came to the conclusion that it was blue-green algae. It happens in the Sabi Sands. It happens all over. Diane from the UK, you said, hi Taylor, you just love my chatter. It's like having a good friend in my room watching Wild Earth with me. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much, Diane. Like I was saying, I love these comments. It really is amazing, and I'll never be able to show you all how much I appreciate it. But of course, we all have down days, so not that I'm having one today, but when I hear those comments, or when I'm having one of those moments, I'm like, no, don't do that. People do like you. I think we all go through that, right? We have this moment where we just think nobody likes us, and so I'm really happy that I have such amazing friends that I've met through Wild Earth. So thank you very much for always engaging. And now the elephants are officially moving off. Canine Girl, you've said that you enjoy watching the crazy little elephants, and that it's great to always watch, because you can never get bored of watching elephants. I kind of zone out on them, so if I'm just watching elephants on my own, I really don't say much at all. I just sit and I listen and I watch, and I just appreciate being in the presence of all the wildlife. Okay, but seeing as though the elephants have moved off from Jamala, we're going to move back to Olifantswest Game Reserve. And there we go. Some of the elephants have moved off. This maybe is just the last of the cows. One coming towards us. She looks like a big female. Obviously much nicer when we head over to this side. little bit of mud on the top right-hand corner of the camera, as you can see. Probably from the elephants tossing it in this direction, but the light's a lot nicer too. I love this time of the year because we start to get that afternoon golden glow much earlier. We have to wait for it in summer, and I always find it lasts a bit longer in winter too. Candice, you said that there's so many elephants today, and you said it's wonderful. It is. We've got the blacksmith lapwing also just lurking about, the bird on the right-hand side of that elephant, waiting for all sorts of insects to be disturbed. And the other one I can see just through her front legs. Another cow that's joining in too. Gosh, both of these cows look like they're heavily pregnant. Especially that one on the right. Gosh, she's almost got, there's like no definition to her body, and it looks like she's filled out quite a bit towards her back. You see how low her stomach is dropping? It'd be great if she turns sideways. You can see she's got a big bulge. But to get a true idea, she obviously needs to either stand facing towards us, or even if she turns and she has her backside towards us, we'll have a good idea of how far along she is. That might be why they may be lagging behind the rest of the herd. They're just taking it easy. Giraffe girl, you say good morning, and that you've got your hot drink with you and you're starting to settle in. They're just being so gentle. It actually looks like a female on the right. She's spraying a bit of water on her feet. She's kind of getting in between her legs. And you can see that mammary gland. I'm trying to see the mammary gland under her, well, her left one. For a moment, I don't know if anyone else saw that. Did it look like it was like her teat was a little bit on the white side, almost like if there's like a waxy secretion coming out of there? I could be mistaken, of course. It might have just been the light catching it, but that's quite often what we see in animals when they're nearing giving birth. That's interesting. And Catherine, you said imagine seeing an elephant give birth on one of these cameras. My goodness, wouldn't that be unbelievable to see something like that? Yeah, that would be pretty amazing. Everybody would be glued to the screens. I'm trying to see if we can see it again, but with the way that she's standing now, it's quite difficult. But maybe she moves her leg forward. Wow, look at this beautiful herd. We've obviously switched cameras, as I'm sure you've noticed. We're now in Old Donyo, which is in Kenya. And even though we were just talking about elephants being pregnant, you can see that there's a very pregnant mare just in the middle, drinking water. She's also bursting at the seams. And once again, if you can hear the voices, they are just people that are watching all the wildlife from the heights. Catherine, you said that you like it when zebras don't have the shadow stripe. They look a lot cleaner. You're quite right. So this is the Grant zebra, which is a subspecies of the plain zebra that boasts the shadow stripe. So it basically on the white stripe there's a very faint stripe. Sometimes it appears black, but it can also appear a more brown color. So it definitely makes them look a bit on the dirtier side of things. But with this subspecies of the plain zebra, the shadow stripe is not there. You also see there's a bit of cloud cover. Yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, it was quite clear. Perhaps there's more rain on the way. Although East Africa really doesn't need any more rain. They really are full to the brim at the moment, and the ground just is so saturated it can't handle it anymore. And that's of course when water then starts to become destructive and have the opposite effect. Okay, let's see. Are there any birdies around here? Yesterday we had some nice birds sitting up in the tree, and there's lots of them flapping around. Most of them are doves. But I don't see any specials right now. Okay, so I think we'll move on from Oldonyo and perhaps head to a camera which we haven't had a look at yet, all the way on the east coast of South Africa. Let's go to Tembe Elephant Park. And here we are, a very different scene. Also, lots of luscious grass. The trees are bearing beautiful green foliage, like bottle green more than anything, or military green. And then this waterhole is also filled up quite nicely, but you can see that the mud wallows that are surrounding this area are all empty now. Not that that's going to keep the elephants away. It actually looks like this elephant, this big bull that's standing here by himself, I think I just saw him grab a bit of soil and put it in his mouth. It looks like that's what he's doing. And we see elephants, especially going into the dry seasons, or animals in general, they lack minerals that they're probably not gaining from plants that they're eating. So by eating the soil, depending on what type of soil it is, they'll be able to get all sorts of nutrients. We call that geophagia. Moving on to some soil that's clearly been dug about. I'm tossing it over himself. Got a bit of an itch though on his legs. Lots of things that'll be biting him now. And maybe even the water just trickling down their legs will be causing some kind of irritation too. They're very sensitive. Even though their skin is so thick, they are covered with tiny little hairs. Very difficult to see. SciTech, you've asked me if I've ever had an elephant come in such close proximity that I was able to touch it. Yes, I have. It's incredible how relaxed, how the elephants they just completely accept you. Not always, and this is why it's important to read animal behavior, but I have had numerous sightings, and it's the sighting that you normally have with elephants, where they'll quite happily walk right past the vehicle. And possibly my fondest memories are from a herd of elephants that I used to see on pridelands quite often. I saw them every single day for I don't even know how many months. And I don't know what it is about that breeding herd of elephants. I can't give you a logic reason behind it. But there was one cow that, at first she would hear my voice and she'd make an effort to come out to me. And I always joke and I say, young elephant cows have a problem with me. And they tend to throw sticks and mud, and I don't know what it is, but it happens everywhere. Every safari destination in Africa that I've ever been to, it has happened. And there's one particular elephant who we named Susan. I don't know why either. Well, I do know why, but anyways. And I used to have a lot of fun with them. And I had an amazing sighting the one day I was sitting and I was waiting for them to come out of a property that I wasn't allowed to drive on, but I could see them, and I could see, and the matriarch was also distinctive, easy to identify, and I was like, okay. And they were far away, and they actually made their way towards my vehicle. I must have been hundreds of meters away from them, and it took them about 30 minutes, and then they all came and stood around me in the morning, and they had a siesta around the car, like right next to the vehicle. And the babies were laying down on the ground, and the adults were all just standing there motionless. Some of them were having a dust bath. It was an incredible moment, and I could have absolutely touched lots of elephants. The temptation is real. I'm not even going to lie. It's quite tricky. Of course, we all want to reach out and just touch it. Not a good idea. Definitely don't do that, because when you upset an elephant takes its frustration out on the entire vehicle. But I also don't want to touch a wild animal. So self-control is something that I've had to really learn how to practice. This is quite a big elephant bull. Isn't he beautiful? Look at his tusks. Stunning individual. And with the scene, it almost feels like it's quite tropical. Dark Main Lover, you've said that you're enjoying these wonderful cameras. I'm so glad that you are. Gosh, he's really a magnificent specimen. I wonder if he has a name. I'm sure he must. I'm just not familiar with it, and I don't know if Tembe Elephant Park has an identification kit. Maybe not something that I could find on the internet, but I bet the guides know exactly who's who. Hopefully he continues on this pathway that the other elephant walked earlier, where he had a dust bath. We'll keep an eye on him. It's nice to have some variety on the scene in the form of impala, inyala, and of course a warthog. I don't think I'd stray too far from this area, with there being almost a permanent water source, lovely lush grass. If it gets a bit windy, you can tuck yourselves between some of those trees, and if the rain starts, well, I suppose you can do the same thing. All the elephants making way for another elephant with superb tusks. And this is really, gosh, other than the Kruger National Park, where there are a couple of individuals, generally at Tembe Elephant Park, they kind of hold the stronghold populations of elephants in southern Africa with very large tusks. It's so special. It's almost like the Eldonyo or the Amboseli of South Africa. Of course, if you go into Kruger, though, you can see big tuskers. I found that there are a few areas where a couple of the individuals seem to be hanging around. Oh, and then Penelope, thank you so much. I see you say that there's something called Tuskers of Tembe, and it's a comprehensive list of their elephants and their names. I'm going to mute everybody very quickly because I'm going to be typing. I want to quickly have a look and see if I can find this list. Okay, I can't seem to find it right now, so I'll have to do some more digging. Do you know what I was about to say? What is dangling from the top of that tree? But I think it's an elephant's trunk on the other side. Can you all see that? If you follow the big tree trunk up to the right, there's something swinging. And I was like, please be a leopard's tail. It's not, though. That's definitely an elephant on the other side. I got very excited. And then I see Darkmane Lover, you said, when elephants are being confined to zoos for so long, can they be sent back to the wild, and not in a sanctuary, but to the African bush? Would they survive in the wild? I think that they'd be able to. I mean, it's natural for them to feed on vegetation, so they're going to smell it and they're just going to taste it and eat it. So I don't think there would be an issue with eating. So you know what sometimes happens with animals in captivity? Actually, not sometimes, quite often, especially large mammals, is that they end up getting deformities. Their feet don't develop properly because, you know, and the reason why I talk about this is, if you've ever read about the last two northern white rhinos that are now, or that are in Kenya, that were brought back from, I think, the Czech Republic, where they were kept in captivity, they have got severe disabilities now because their feet just didn't form in the way that they were supposed to because of constantly being on the hard ground. So that's something that could potentially happen. Maybe I wonder if they develop something like laminitis, you know, especially being some maybe overfed, gaining too much weight, not moving around very much, could definitely be, you know, a cause for something like that. So perhaps there could be complications on that side, but I think that they would be all right. Again, they're going to have a long-standing relationship, though, with people, whether it was positive or negative, I'm not sure. And that's not good. When animals are too familiar with humans, it causes problems for them. sadly. Of course, people can get hurt in the process, which we definitely don't want. But as we know, when something like that happens, it's pretty tricky. Where was I going with this now? Oh, I don't know what's wrong with my brain. It's terrible. I just forget everything like mid conversation. It's definitely my ADHD that does that. And someone told me it was because I'm maybe not interested in what I'm talking about. I couldn't be more interested in this topic. But anyways, sorry, so I forgot. So I'm going to just go straight into something else. Spencer, you said, have I ever had a guest do something like touch an animal, and how did I react, and do I have to report them? So yes, I have had guests touch an elephant before on my vehicle. Actually, it happened twice, very early on in my guiding career. The first time it happened, I was just in such disbelief. I've just politely asked him, please to not do that again. And I said, we're very lucky that that elephant didn't seem to notice. I walked past the vehicle and I'd said to him, right, we're going to sit nice and still. Don't move around too much. Let's be quiet. Let's, not say anything at all and just let them move through. And this elephant was so close. And then they were like, I think a little bit embarrassed. I didn't like reprimand them and shout at them and that type of thing, because it didn't end up being a negative situation, thankfully. And then I had some other people that came around, and this elephant cow, she was quite a cheeky cow, but not in a nasty way. But she formed the habit of, after she like wallow in the mud, she would literally go to a vehicle, and like they'd find a tree to rub up against. She would try and rub up against the vehicle, so you often had to start the car and move it and kind of usher her away to try and discourage that behavior. And she tried to do it to my vehicle, and I watched this guest as I literally started the car, because I said to them, I said, I'm just going to move a bit forward so she doesn't touch the vehicle. And he reached out and he touched her also, like on her trunk, and she didn't. She sort of just went very still, and she kind of raised her ears, but then didn't do anything. So please don't. I'm not saying that, it's fine, you can touch an elephant, because the day that you do and they decide that they're very unhappy with something like that, good luck. I don't think there's very much anyone can really do. Of course, animals don't like to engage in conflict, but at that proximity, they could get such a fright, and it might not be a positive outcome. So please don't touch or entice wild animals to come over to you, whether you're trying to bait them with food or you're playing a distress call of an animal to try and get a big cat to come out of the bushes, or whatever the case is. Please don't do that. Just watch them. We are lucky enough, wildlife is all about being at the right place at the right time. Of course, there's skill involved if you're tracking an animal, but just enjoy it. We don't need to encroach. We encroach in their space already. Let's just let them be. But yes, I would typically report someone. Normally the guides are just left to handle it to themselves, but if they're a repeat offender, then please report it to your head guide or your lodge manager. But for the most part, it doesn't really escalate to that. Granny Mango, you said, when it comes to animal behavior, is it your safest bet to read body language or pay attention to vocals? So this is interesting. So animals, for the most part, don't make sounds that you and I are able to hear. A lot of these animals are communicating through infrasounds, so frequencies so low that we can't actually hear them. So using vocalizations wouldn't be my first bet. I always look at animal behavior, body language, like you mentioned. So with elephants, I was chatting about it a moment ago, looking at what the trunk is doing and looking what that tail is doing is really an insightful way to understand what kind of mood, or what is that elephant feeling in that moment. How do they feel about your presence? So you should definitely keep an eye out for that type of thing. It's very difficult to now start talking about it, but if I see it, we'll definitely focus on it. Even when you can see, like, for example, he's like twisting his trunk a little bit. There was another big elephant bull that had walked through here and literally done the same thing as this guy is doing, tossing sand over his body, maybe 5 or so minutes ago. So maybe he was just picking up on his scent. He was quite a large bull too, and maybe he was sort of just sussing out the situation, which made him feel like a little bit uncomfortable, maybe apprehensive, and then he's like, oh, okay, everything is fine. But I was just watching the way that he was kind of twisting his trunk, but his tail wasn't doing anything. He didn't move it away from his body. He wasn't showing that he was upset in any way. Vocalizations, of course, for cats and stuff, you're going to probably, before you even see the ears go back, especially if they're hiding away. You're going to hear them growl. So that's an important sound to pay attention to. But again, before a lion or a leopard growls, they might snarl. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to produce a sound. Like I said, just think of your cats and dogs at home. Ears are going to go flat back. They might even, erect some of the fur around their bodies, sort of puff themselves up, stiffen their bodies. Those are all things that you can look at too. Gosh, that was a lot of sand that he just threw up in his face. I'd be doing that all day long. I'd have to carry somehow sand in a special pouch to constantly keep tossing over my face, especially around the eyes. You have all those bugs trying to get in there all the time. Well, that was good while it lasted. It was nice to see elephants on a much larger scale. Let's head over to Naledi and have a quick look and see if there are any more elephants there. Well, and that they are. Another great view from above. A small group of elephants, though. Looks like an adult cow and perhaps 2 generations of offspring. Look at the little one trying to get the nice clean water, while the rest of them are going to cover themselves in mud. Also, I think it's Baobab Girl for sending through the website link for the Tuskers of Africa. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to spend some time having a look at them. When Mom decides she wants to go, well, then the rest of the herd follows. And there they go. A couple more also joining the scene. Gosh, they're charging off. A very different view after spending some time at the lush Tembe Elephant Park. You can see how things are drying out here. The grass is almost gone. Oh, it's a 360 camera. That's nice. Do a full twist around. Gosh, even the pathways are starting to disappear into one another. But especially around the waterhole, I know I've spoken about this in nauseam, but you can just see how the ground gets trampled, how compact the soil becomes, and of course that area is grazed normally quicker. But we're going to change it up again now, seeing that these elephants are gone, and we're going to head all the way to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. Oh, here we go. And we've also got a marabou stork in the background. A really large bird. They've got huge feet and a massive wingspan. Oh, elephants are having fun. And this is the waterhole where we have quite a bit of action between the crocodiles and the elephants. So who knows? Maybe we're going to see something like that again today. That's been great. Occasionally there's a disgruntled crocodile in here, and I'm sure it's the same one. And there goes one entering the water now, feeling a bit of pressure from the elephants. Let's see. And it was quite unusual to see, because for the most part, crocodiles will just leave elephants alone. They do attack elephants. And I can maybe understand that a crocodile would be a little bit more defensive in a situation like this, because the waterhole is quite small. And, you know, constantly feeling the pressure of the elephants intruding into its space. Not to upset anybody, but now it's completely vanished. Let's see where it's going to pop up. There's a guinea fowl. Looks like a hooded vulture there too. Lots going on. And there is a vulture feeding site around here. So we do tend to see lots of the scavengers. There's a helmeted guinea fowl. I wonder where that crocodile is. Maybe it's just moved in towards those reeds. There's one boisterous elephant. But no one paying him any attention. It's obviously a very different landscape from what we've been looking at. Sort of more of a harsh environment. There's the crocodile again. Just did a little loop around. Where are you going to go now? It's always good to keep an eye on them, just because they've shown some, quite interesting and erratic behavior from what they normally are like. Who am I to say what they're normally like, right? Like, I know crocodiles that well. We hardly see them. We get to spend a lot of time with them. So it's always nice to use these moments as learning opportunities. Just dip underneath the water now. Keep an eye on the elephants though. Well, look at that. A pelican, right? Don't you think? Unusual place to see one of these magnificent birds. That is truly spectacular. So you have two different species of pelicans that occur in this area. So there's the pinkback pelican, and then of course the great white pelican. And they look fairly similar, I suppose. Just the facial skin, the plumage is slightly, not the plumage, the facial skin is slightly different. So if you can please turn your head so we can have a proper look. I mean, immediately when I start to look at it, just because of how dark the feathers are, and especially around the neck, almost looking more gray in color. And it's got a bright white back. So then I want to go towards it being a pinkback pelican, but I think it's probably a great white pelican. We see them more often, more than anything. I'm wondering maybe if it's an immature individual. But they're beautiful birds. I'll never forget when I went to South Luangwa in Zambia. When was it? Around August, end of August. And we came across a huge flock of pelicans, which was just magnificent. It honestly was the last thing I was expecting to see. And there we go. Mindy, you've said to see pelicans here because you always see, yes, we do. I think everybody associates pelicans with the ocean. If you want to see lots of pelicans, though, you've got to go and visit Tanzania, and specifically a national park, which was once called Selous Game Reserve, but it's now Nyerere National Park. Also, I've changed my mind. This is definitely a pinkback pelican. I'm just looking at that sort of black marking just in front of the eye, and that seems to be synonymous with the pinkback pelican. And I'm trying to think if I've seen a pinkback pelican or not. I can't remember for the life of me. This is the frustrating part as well, is sometimes you struggle. You know what the answer is, and then you don't go with your gut. So I'm a firm believer is say out loud what you're thinking, and it doesn't matter if it takes you 5 minutes to get to the conclusion. And anyone that's judging you for that, whatever. But a beautiful bird, nonetheless. And they get really big too. They stand well over a meter in height. And then Mercedes, you've said you remember once when you were a kid, you and your mom were in a little fishing boat and a bunch of pelicans surrounded the boat, and you got quite anxious. I don't blame you. I'd be on the nervous side too. They're rather intimidating birds. There's an African jacana and a African sacred ibis too. Also just spending a bit of time in the area. Sounds like a helicopter is flying over. Maybe guests arriving or just going out for a helicopter flip. Not a literal flip, but we call them when you go for a scenic flight, we typically talk about heli flips. There's all sorts of things moving around. Looks like there's craks at the background, and then there's the hooded vulture and an elephant. Right on time. In Spark Salad, you also said that it is just so special to see a pelican. There are pelicans moving out of the way now. perhaps not taking any chances with that elephant. Look at those big feet. I'd love to see pelican tracks. That's something I definitely didn't take note of. I saw plenty of them when I was in the Selous. We'll check that crocodile as well. But I didn't get out the vehicle because I did not want to disturb the birds at all. I bet that crocodile is happy that the elephants have moved off and it can come back out of the water to continue basking in the sun. Looks like that's exactly what it's about to do. But thank you very much, everybody, for another wonderful live at the Waterhole. I hope to see you all soon. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I hope the week is not too bad.
Hello and welcome everyone. This is the show where we look at the highlights from our most recent safari drives. This is On Safari.